My name is Talanoa. I'm the Director of Engineering at Ritani.com. Today's talk is about technology trends. I kind of made the mistake of picking this topic because it's such a vast amount of stuff that can kind of go into it. So I try my best to kind of scope it down to 4 or 5 distinct topics. The first of which is basically web technology and development. Secondly, a second group of collaboration tools that I kind of find exciting. Third is some interesting things I'm seeing in manufacturing and fulfillment. Fourth is like what I was talking about, marketing. And fifth, which could be interesting to some folks here, in-store technology. It's something that Ritani specifically is very interested in. I could not get this talk started without kind of talking about the cloud, which I hate. But the reality is the cloud is so pervasive today in today's world that it's just a thing. You gotta be able to kind of tie into existing services that are out there. Ritani is purely based in the cloud. We're cloud hosted. We use cloud-based services in our application. Basically everything's in the cloud, so I kind of have to start there. Which kind of leads into the next topic of integration. I think integration has always been important, but it's even more important now. Because you can see like the little eye chart there on the right there, there's so many services that are out there. And it's like, how do you tie in the services that are important to your organization in a way that makes sense and is sane is tough. Quick context switch. 2 cloud services, Google Analytics and Google Sheets. Just kind of a pro tip here. I love Google Analytics' API. So for those who are kind of like technical, being able to pull in GA data in Google Sheets and then kind of manipulate it in there directly, super sweet. So it's just something I want to kind of throw out there randomly. All right, so other huge issue for all of us, obviously, is multi-device. How do you deal with mobile? Are you a mobile-first company? Are you doing responsive design? I mean, just so many questions, and it's hard. And I think the trend here is like, how do we deal with that? I don't think anyone has really solved it. It's just like, how do you kind of take on that challenge? And just as an example of how things are difficult, I actually went through a lot of sites that I'm kind of aware of, and they actually failed Google's mobile-friendly test that kind of came out this past week, which I found very interesting, and including Ritani, I hate to say it, not our homepage, but a lot of the pages, subsections within our website are identified as Google as not being mobile-friendly, so that's another thing to check. Another huge trend I think that we're going to see accelerate is this push towards SSL. If you're not on the SSL train now, please start thinking about getting on it. It's going to move whether you want to be on it or not. Especially in the next 1 to 2 years. There's some caveats there, but it's happening. Just get used to that idea. This naturally ties into something for anyone that's remotely interested in engineering. Again, HTTP2. It's been in the works for over a decade, I think, and it's happening. It will do exactly this. This is a slide I pulled off the internet. It actually will change web engineering. This is not overstating what's about to happen in the next 1 to 2 years. So take that to heart and start looking at it if you're kind of in the technology and engineering world. Wanted to also talk about collaboration because that's something that Ritani, I've noticed at Ritani specifically. This is probably an accurate representation of online collaboration back in 2010. 4 or 5 years ago, you used email, maybe WebEx, SharePoint. That's kind of what was going on. The one thing that's kind of interesting to me is just how it's exploded in the last like 3 to 5 years. We use a number of these services, and there's even more out there. There's dozens, and I think if you're able to identify and use these technologies in a sane way, it actually does give you a competitive advantage, not just in e-commerce, but just in organizations across the board. I can't actually imagine our organization working without using some of these services. Another thing I think is fulfillment. Obviously, Amazon's kind of pushing their technology with the Kiva machines, and actually fulfillment as a service, I would say. In the olden days, you'd probably start a warehouse, start shipping things. It's getting harder and harder to eat that initial cost. So I think for a lot of the organizations that are growing quickly, that's kind of something to look into. Fulfillment as a service. Another thing that I actually don't know how it's going to evolve is 3D printing. I'm not sure where MakerBots are going, to be honest, but it seems like there's something there that could lead to a radical shakeup in certain industries. So that's something that I just want to kind of throw out there, kind of keep an eye on. And it's not too far-fetched because Ritani does use 3D printing. So when you buy a ring online, We actually 3D print the wax mold, cast the ring, and actually build it from scratch. So it's already happening, and I can imagine others who are even smarter, kind of doing other things with that kind of technology. Another thing I think with the internet as it relates to manufacturing, Julep, who's a well-known startup here in Seattle, I think they're very much capitalizing on their ability to market products that wouldn't necessarily get a share on shelf. So they're really hitting other brands in the brick and mortar arena and taking advantage of that. So I think there's interesting aspects of that as well. Attribution. I knew that Roy was going to have this talk. Ritani's investing heavily in attribution. A lot of the things that Roy was mentioning is stuff that we're currently doing and trying to ramp up to. Like you said, it's been there for a while. It's just that no one's really capitalized it, or it's still a growing thing. So that's huge. Invest there, put money there. All right, real quick thing, just kind of lo-fi, low-tech things. I think in general, as far as content, make your content more interactive. This is a rent versus buy calculator from the New York Times. I love this thing. They've made something that's a pretty dry topic, I think, which is something that's very interactive. If you search for rent versus buy today, you will get this site because it's awesome. So at Ritani, we're trying to copy that. We're taking something as simple and potentially dry as diamond clarity and trying to add some interactive behavior to it. You can argue whether it's successful or not, but I'm just saying adding that little bit of spice, I guess, to your content has shown to kind of drive results, especially from the SEO front, which I know a lot of us are interested in here. All right, in-store. So here's a sample of the Ritani in-store experience. We basically use RFID technology. So when a CSR pulls, a sales representative pulls jewelry out of the case, it'll actually load additional information on an iPad app that's over there on the right. They can look at the particular setting in different metals, different diamond shapes, and all that kind of stuff. Last thing, NFC. As most of you know, iPhone 6s have that by default. Android devices have had it for a while. I think we're on the verge of another kind of expansion of what NFC can do, just due to the exposure it's had currently. So keep an eye on that as well. All right.